to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the longtime LA Charger quarterback, Phillip Rivers, and the news that is broken on Twitter and all over. It's now trending on Twitter, reported by NFL along with the Chargers, that the Chargers and Phillip Rivers have officially agreed to part ways. Now, this was expected. It came out, I think, January 27th, about 2 weeks ago, that this was going to more than likely happen. Well, today it is official, and now let the rumors start to begin of whether or not the Chargers will move up to get Justin Herbert. I want to give a quick shout out to Chris Sonor, one of my best subscribers. Been with my channel for a very long time. I know he's a huge Phillip Rivers fan and a huge Chargers fan. I know how he feels. You know, I was a huge Eli Manning fan, and it's at least in terms of the Chargers, Eli and him will be leaving their original teams, even though Eli was originally a Charger technically, but both of them will be leaving the teams they played for their entirety of their career. And I know it's tough to move on, but the Chargers will look to find the guy that will replace Phillip Rivers. As far as Rivers goes, I think he could very well stay on and try to sign with another team. There's already been rumors that have come out that he could look with the Bucks. He could look with the Colts. Both of those teams are potential trade partners with the New York Giants, which is something I want to talk about, how this could affect the New York Giants. Being that it's now obvious that the Chargers are in need of a quarterback, and I expect them to draft one. And everyone has said that they've had their eyes set on Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, of course, a very, very good talent, a guy that a lot of people thought the New York Giants would draft last year had Herbert came out. He decided not to. He stands at 6'6", very agile for a man of that size. He's very athletic. He can throw. He's got the arm strength. He's got everything you could want in a quarterback. He needs to work on some things in terms of sometimes he tries to fit balls into tight windows, but I think he's a prospect that the Chargers will fall in love with, and I think they're going to look to trade up, because if they stamp at 6, especially with the Senior Bowl that Herbert had, if he has a good combine, expect teams to be interested in his services, and the Chargers know that, and the New York Giants could very well be a trade partner. Of course, the Chargers and Giants do have history when it comes to the quarterback position and trading up in a trade, Eli for Rivers, and both quarterbacks will now move on from the respective teams, like I said, in what is probably the second greatest quarterback draft class in the history of the NFL, behind, of course, the one with Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, John Elway, and everyone else. But the 04 draft class was phenomenal. I think Ben and Rivers will probably retire within the next year or two. But I do think it's a very strong possibility Rivers, especially since he moved to Florida, will look to link up with either the Bucks or the Colts. I think the Colts make a ton of sense. They're a team that has a very strong offensive line. They were a team that many thought would be going to the Super Bowl this year before Luck unexpectedly retired. They were coming off a year where they went to the divisional round, and he may look at that as a team that he could have success with, and I think Rivers could. With that offensive line playing in the dome, Rivers doesn't have the best of arm strength, but the weather will not be a factor in most of those games. And you could say the same thing with the Bucs. They had, beautiful weather there in Tampa Bay. They have a great offensive mind in Bruce Arians. It's a team with a lot of offensive weapons. And I think both places make a ton of sense, especially being that the Colts said they wanted to move on from Jacoby Brissett. But we'll have to wait and see what Rivers decides to do, whether it's retire or sign on with one of those teams. Of course, if he signs on with one of those teams, it is more than likely that either the Colts or the Bucs, whoever were to bring him in, would not be willing to move up to get a quarterback, which would take away one of the potential partners for the New York Giants. So we'll have to wait and see how free agency plays out. But the Chargers are definitely on the market for a quarterback. I just wanted to pull up the exact tweet reported by NFL on Twitter. After 10 seasons, the Chargers and Phillip Rivers will finally part ways. The quarterback who spent his entire career with the Chargers will become a free agent in the 2020 season. So there you have it. He will be probably the biggest name on the open market outside of Tom Brady if the Patriots do not move on from him. But you have a lot of big names at the quarterback position now in free agency. So before we even start speculating as to which teams will move up and look to trade for a quarterback, we have to see where all these quarterbacks end up. Is it possible the Chargers look to get Brady on a 1 or 2 year deal? It's possible. The Raiders as well. There's a lot of teams that could look for quarterbacks, and there's a lot of teams that could look to trade up in the draft. I still think the Chargers, who have been linked to Justin Herbert for a while, I think they're interested in him, will look to move up in this draft to make sure they get him. The question is, will they move up to 3? And if, the Dolphins were to move up to get 2, which some people think that they could, would they look to trade up with the Giants at 4 to make sure they get their man? And what would be the asking price for the New York Giants? Well, I did a video on this. I think they'd be able to get probably a future second along with the 37th overall pick and the 6th pick of the Chargers if the Chargers moved up to number 4 to secure Justin Herbert. I think it makes sense for both parties. A quarterback, of course, is extremely valuable, and when you're in love with Herbert the way that the Chargers reportedly are, it makes a ton of sense to make sure that you get him. But we'll see. We'll see how it all works out. But Rivers will be on the open market. We'll see where he ends up, and we'll see if the Chargers are willing to move up to get their man. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.